It started with something so small it almost didn't register. A receipt folded, half-tucked under the notepad on the entryway table. I hadn't seen it there earlier, and I wouldn't have noticed it at all if I hadn't dropped my keys. Allison had just left for another business dinner. She was wearing the black wool coat she usually reserved for client events, her hair pinned back neatly, heels clicking on the hardwood like punctuation marks. The scent of her perfume still hung in the air, a floral trace that once I would have found comforting. That night, it just lingered. I picked up the receipt out of instinct more than suspicion. It wasn't like I had any reason to doubt her. Or at least, that's what I'd always told myself. Linden and Company. I frowned. That was the place we went on our 6th anniversary. A sleek, candlelit, impossible-to-get-a-table kind of place. I remembered how excited she was that night, how she had insisted we try the creme brulee despite claiming she was full. We laughed until the place emptied out. It wasn't somewhere she went for work. Not unless her job suddenly included foie gras and a wine list thicker than a Bible. I scanned the rest. 2 entrees. 2 cocktails. $160 total. The tip was generous. And then scrawled in handwriting that looked eerily like Allison's, a note, "Wonderful evening, as always." Just beneath it, a phone number. No name except for an initial, M. My stomach dropped in a slow, quiet way. She hadn't said anything about Linden and Company. She told me the meeting was downtown, yes, but she mentioned a team dinner, something casual. No clients. Nothing formal. And yet, the evidence in my hand suggested otherwise. I stood there for what felt like 10 minutes, rereading the note, flipping the receipt over like maybe the back would offer an explanation. It didn't. Then I heard the door open again. Allison stepped back inside, startled to see me standing there, the receipt in my hand like a smoking G*N. "Oh," she said, and she said it too quickly. Her eyes darted to the paper. "This was under your notepad," I said. She blinked. Her mouth opened, closed, then curved into something that might have been a smile. "That? Oh, it's old. I must have grabbed it by mistake from a pile at work. Or maybe it was in my bag and slipped out." I didn't say anything. I was watching her face too closely to speak. She wasn't making eye contact, and the hand holding her phone was tightening around it like a stress ball. "It's nothing," she said, and this time her voice had an edge, like she was trying to convince herself as much as me. "People mix these things up all the time. You know that." She reached out and took it from me, not gently, but not aggressively either. Just quickly. Like she wanted it gone. I asked, "Who's M?" She scoffed. "Honestly, Kev, I don't know. I get handed receipts with notes and numbers at these dinners. Salespeople, reps, consultants, everyone's always trying to network. It's annoying. But it's your signature." She laughed, too high-pitched. "Yeah, well, sometimes the waiters bring the check to whoever looks most professional. It doesn't mean anything." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. But something in her tone didn't sit right. Something about how fast she dismissed it, how quickly she changed the subject. She reached for her bag and slung it over her shoulder. "I really have to go," she said, glancing at her watch. "I'm running late." "Allison." She cut me off. "Kev, please. Don't turn this into something it's not. You're reading way too much into a dumb receipt." Then she was out the door again. This time for real. Her heels clicking away down the steps, into the car, and gone. I stood there for a long time. The house felt different in her absence, still, but not peaceful. It was the kind of silence that doesn't just fill the air but presses down on you. Like the quiet after a dropped plate before anyone moves to pick it up. I moved to the kitchen, grabbed a glass of water, and stared at the backsplash tile I had installed myself last spring. We'd chosen it together at that home improvement store up on Route 1. She'd picked the pattern. I remembered thinking how great we were at making decisions together. Compromise had always been our thing. We didn't fight about paint or furniture or money. We didn't fight much at all. But lately, we hadn't really talked either. Not about anything real. I thought about the last few weeks. The nights she came home late, claiming she was stuck at the office. The way she started keeping her phone on silent, face down on the table. The extra long showers. The new underwear I hadn't seen her wear for me. Her sudden interest in podcasts she never discussed. I hadn't wanted to be paranoid. I brushed it all off. Work stress, I told myself. The pandemic fallout. Maybe she was just in a funk. But now this? I opened my own phone and looked up the number on the receipt. It wasn't saved in my contacts, but I copied it into Google anyway. Nothing came up. No LinkedIn, no white pages listing, not even a spam warning. Just blank results. Untraceable. Or private. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the call button. But I didn't call. Not yet. I wasn't sure I wanted to hear a voice on the other end. That night she came home late, claimed the meeting ran over. She looked polished but tired, as if she'd been somewhere demanding, but not exhausting. We didn't talk about the receipt. She didn't bring it up and I didn't either. We had dinner in front of the TV, watched some mindless game show. She laughed at all the right moments. I nodded and smiled. But something between us had shifted. Just enough to notice, not enough to name. As we went to bed, she leaned over to kiss me goodnight. Her lips were soft, her breath minty. Everything felt normal, except it wasn't. When she turned away and curled into her side of the bed, I lay there staring at the ceiling, wide awake, listening to the rhythmic hum of the heater. That's when it really hit me. I didn't trust her anymore. The receipt didn't just disappear. Not from my memory, anyway. It lingered like static in the background, a low buzz I couldn't shake. Every time I looked at Allison after that, something in me twisted. A question mark that hadn't been there before. I didn't say anything. Not at first. But I started paying attention. It's strange how once you suspect something, everything seems like a clue. A glance too long at her phone. A text she quickly swiped away. A laugh that didn't quite match the joke. I wasn't looking to catch her. I was hoping, honestly, that I was wrong. But the more I looked, the less I liked what I saw. For months, she'd been glued to those Bluetooth earbuds. She wore them constantly, while folding laundry, cooking, even brushing her teeth. At first, I thought it was audiobooks or work calls. But I'd noticed her sometimes whispering things with a faint smile, then pausing like she was listening for a reply. Once, I tried to talk to her while she was in the kitchen, and she held up a finger without even turning around. "Hold on," she said, as if I were interrupting something sacred. She hadn't always been like that. She used to light up when I came into a room. Now she barely looked up. Her style had changed too. I noticed it gradually. Subtler makeup, a sharper blazer, red nails that matched a new lipstick she only wore on presentation days. She claimed it made her feel professional. But I'd seen her pull off professionalism with much less effort for years. This new version felt curated, intentional, like someone preparing to be noticed. Not by me, but by someone. She stopped letting me hold her phone. That was the clearest sign something was off. We used to share phones all the time, looking up directions, checking messages, ordering food. Now, whenever I asked to use hers, she'd get tense. One night, I asked if I could use it to call my sister. Mine had died in the middle of an update, and Allison hesitated just a beat too long before handing it over, already on the phone app. No passcode, just the dial screen, open and ready. I didn't think much of it until later, when I realized she'd avoided letting me unlock it myself. She'd always kept her notifications on, texts, emails, even random app alerts. But now, total silence. Her screen would light up, she'd glance down, tap quickly, then lock it again. If I asked who it was, she'd smile vaguely and say, "Just work stuff." One night, we were lying in bed when I noticed the faint blue glow of her phone under the covers. She was turned away, pretending to scroll casually, but I could see the outline of her fingers tapping out something quick and deliberate. I didn't say anything, but I didn't sleep much that night either. Then there were the absences. The nights she stayed over at Claire's, her best friend from college. I didn't question it at first. Claire and Allison had been close for years. But one night, after Allison left for a supposed girls' weekend, I was scrolling through Instagram and saw a photo Claire posted, geotagged in Portland, Maine. The caption read, "Finally made it to my sister's for the weekend. Love this view." My stomach sank. I sat with the phone in my lap, rereading the caption, zooming in on the photo like it might offer answers. Claire wasn't even in the state. So where was Allison? I didn't confront her immediately. I waited. I needed to be sure. The next day, she texted me a photo of a wine bottle and a charcuterie board with the caption, "Girls' Night Essentials." No people in the photo, just the food. No tags, no Claire. I responded with a thumbs up and said nothing. That week, she came home with a bouquet of lilies. Said it was from the team at her office for nailing a pitch. The card inside was generic, congratulatory, but the handwriting looked like it had been written in a rush. You crushed it today. Couldn't take my eyes off you. M. She left it on the dining table like it meant nothing. Who's M? I asked, feigning casual interest. Her eyes flicked to the card. Martin. He's in HR. He always signs stuff like that. Don't read into it. I nodded slowly. Right? HR guy writing you poetry. Sounds like a solid workplace boundary. She laughed it off, too hard, and tossed the card in the trash. But I didn't forget it. The final straw came 2 weeks later. She was in the bathroom for nearly 45 minutes. When I knocked to ask if she was okay, she snapped, "I'm fine," in a tone that didn't match the question. I went back to the living room and waited. She emerged eventually, fully dressed but hair slightly damp, as if she'd only washed parts of it. Her phone was in her hand, screen turned away. "Why'd you lock the bathroom?" I asked, not accusing, just curious. She froze slightly. "Habit. I was on a call. Didn't want the echo." "You were on a call in the bathroom?" She shrugged. "It's the only quiet place lately. I needed to concentrate." I wanted to believe her. Really, I did. But all the pieces were starting to rearrange themselves, and they pointed in one direction. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, turning it all over in my mind. The phone, the flowers, the lipstick, the mysterious M, the fake sleepovers, the guarded silence. None of it was innocent anymore. Not in context. It wasn't jealousy or paranoia. It wasn't me being insecure. It was intuition screaming through a wall I had tried to build between trust and reality. I wasn't sharing my wife with another job. I was sharing her with another person. And the scariest part? I didn't even know when it started. It was one of those cold mornings where you could see your breath inside the house if you stood near a window. I was working from home, sitting at the dining room table with my laptop and a mug of lukewarm coffee. The house was quiet, too quiet. Allison had already left, saying she had a back-to-back day full of calls and meetings. Something about a strategic communication forum in Salem. I didn't ask questions. Not anymore. Not since I stopped believing the answers. I had no intention of snooping. I really didn't. I told myself that all the time. But when I opened our shared laptop to send a file to the printer, the browser popped up, still signed into her account. Tabs were open. I wish I could say I hesitated. I didn't. The first tab was a confirmation email. "Thank you for booking with Elmstone Villas, Salem." My heart stuttered as I read further. The reservation was for a long weekend, Friday through Monday. Private villa, king bed, in-room jacuzzi, rose petals, candlelit welcome dinner, champagne. Every box checked, every cliché. But the names on the reservation? Allison Reeves and Milo J. Not initials. Not a vague M. A full name, Milo Jansen. And it was booked with her email address, paid for with our joint credit card. The dates aligned perfectly with her strategic forum. Every night she said she'd be in panels or conference mixers. She had been checked into a luxury getaway with someone I'd never heard of. I stared at the screen, stunned, but not surprised. Not really. It didn't feel like discovering something. It felt like realizing I had known all along. I clicked through her email, just enough to confirm what I feared. There were messages exchanged with the hotel concierge, special dinner requests, allergy notes, spa times, all from her account. Every line confirming that this wasn't business. It was a premeditated escape, and I wasn't part of it. I sat there in the glow of the screen, the rest of the house dark behind me. I could hear the fridge humming. A wind gust rattled the windows, but I couldn't move, couldn't even breathe properly. I wasn't just dealing with suspicion anymore. This was evidence. Dates, names, billing records, confirmation numbers. She had lied to my face for weeks, maybe months, planning this affair in the margins of our lives, using our shared money, our shared tools, and then coming home to sleep in our shared bed. The worst part? She had gotten good at it. Too good. I closed the laptop slowly and placed it on the table like it might explode. My hands trembled, not from shock, but from clarity. It was over. not the affair US. And somehow that realization brought calm. I didn't call her, didn't text. I didn't rage or throw things or make a scene. That part of me, the reactive part, had burned out weeks ago. What was left now was quieter, colder, focused. I spent the rest of the day going through the motions, calls, emails, even a virtual team meeting where I pretended to be interested in quarterly reports. But behind every nod, every sounds good, I was making a plan. That night, I pulled the receipt from Linden and Company out of the drawer where I had stashed it. I laid it beside a printed copy of the hotel confirmation. 2 artifacts, 2 timestamps, 2 pieces of a puzzle I no longer needed to solve just to present. When Allison came home, the house was dim. I left it that way on purpose. She walked in, heels soft on the hardwood, and set her bag down like nothing was wrong. "Hey, babe," she said. "Sorry I'm late. Got stuck in a debrief. You wouldn't believe it." I didn't respond. She noticed the laptop open, the papers on the table. Her voice faltered. "What's all this?" I didn't answer right away. I looked at her like I was trying to recognize something. Like maybe if I stared long enough I'd see the version of her I used to know. But she just stood there, suddenly frozen, eyes darting between the laptop and me. "Allison," I said, my voice even. "Who's Milo?" She didn't speak. "Who is he?" I repeated. She blinked. He's a consultant. We met at a workshop. It's not what a... Don't, I cut her off. Don't insult both of us with "it's not what it looks like." I saw the confirmation. The booking. The candlelit dinner. Our credit card. She stepped forward, reaching for the papers, but I moved them out of reach. "Why?" I asked. Was I that boring? That invisible? "No," she whispered. "It wasn't like that. It started as a..." "As what?" I asked. "Networking? A free spa weekend? Something to help you de-stress?" Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't plan for it to happen. It just did. And then I didn't know how to stop. "Funny," I said. "You seemed very organized. Spa itinerary. Dinner times. Allergy notes. You managed it all so well." She sat down suddenly like her legs couldn't hold her anymore. "Kevin, I'm sorry. I know that's not enough, but I am." I didn't respond. There was nothing she could say that would change anything. "Do you love him?" I asked. She looked up, stunned. "What? No. Of course not. It wasn't about that." "Then what was it about?" She paused. "He made me feel seen. Like I was still interesting. Like I wasn't just someone's wife." I stared at her, the words slicing through me in the quietest, most devastating way. "You were never just someone's wife. You were my whole life." "But I guess that wasn't enough." "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said. "But you did," I said. "And the worst part is I think you stopped caring long before you started lying." She didn't respond. Just sat there, shaking, crying quietly. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just picked up the papers, slid them into a folder, and walked upstairs. She didn't follow. That night, I slept in the guest room for the first time in our marriage. The sheets were cold. The ceiling unfamiliar. But it was the most honest sleep I'd had in months. After that night, everything changed visibly, palpably, but no one said it out loud. The house, once warm and filled with incidental laughter, had become a stage where we performed the bare minimum required to get through the day. We were both pretending, but for different reasons. Allison moved through the house like a shadow, avoiding eye contact and speaking only when necessary. I was no longer trying to fix anything. I had crossed a line internally. Something in me had snapped, not in a violent way, but in a permanent, irreparable way. The next morning, I got up early. Earlier than usual. I made coffee like I always did, but for one this time. I didn't bother knocking on our bedroom door to see if she was awake. I didn't even glance in that direction. I sat at the kitchen table, sipping slowly, scrolling through legal sites on my laptop. Divorce processes, financial separation, custody laws, not that we had kids. That part, at least, was mercifully simple. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to burn it all down. I just wanted out. Cleanly. Without drama. I wanted my peace back. By the time Allison appeared, dressed in yoga pants and a cardigan like it was any other Saturday, I had already printed out a draft of a separation agreement. It sat on the table right next to the hotel reservation and the receipt from Linden and Company. She paused when she saw them. I didn't look up. "You're serious," she said quietly, her voice cracking. "I'm done," I replied, folding the laptop closed. Her face went pale. "Kev, please? Can we just talk?" "We've talked," I said. "And everything you didn't say was loud enough." She stepped forward, trembling. "I made a mistake. One mistake. Please don't throw everything away." I looked at her then, not with anger, but with something heavier. Something final. It wasn't one mistake, Allison, I said. It was a campaign. A pattern. It was you lying, planning, erasing me from parts of your life. You didn't trip into this. You built it. She fell silent. And when she realized I wasn't going to argue or chase her for an explanation, her shoulders dropped. She looked defeated. Maybe she expected me to yell. Maybe she thought there'd be some grand confrontation, tears, accusations, a storm. But I was past that. The storm had already happened. She just hadn't heard it. That afternoon, I began gathering documents, bank statements, property paperwork, account access. I wasn't being malicious, I was being methodical. We had been together long enough to be entangled in all the ways that make leaving a logistical nightmare. Joint accounts, insurance policies, emergency contacts. I was untangling it one thread at a time. I called a lawyer, someone recommended by a friend who'd gone through something similar. Her name was Megan, and she had the kind of voice that was calm but steel-edged. When I told her the situation, she didn't act surprised. She asked all the right questions and scheduled me for a consultation the following week. That night, I packed an overnight bag and drove to my sister's. She lived in the suburbs a little outside of the city. She was divorced herself and had a spare room that doubled as a craft storage space. When I walked in with my bag, she didn't ask questions. She just hugged me and handed me a blanket. "I've got space," she said. "The bed's a little squeaky and the dog sheds, but it's yours." The dog was an aging Labrador named Mocha, once our family pet, now half-blind and wholly spoiled. She sniffed my bag, then lay down at my feet like she already knew I needed something to anchor me. That night, I lay in a twin bed surrounded by old photo albums and used scrapbooking kits and a few boxes labeled Christmas lights. The ceiling above me was water-stained and cracked in the corner. But I slept. Not deeply, not restfully, but without that weight pressing on my chest for the first time in weeks. In the morning, I made coffee in my sister's cluttered kitchen while Mocha watched me from under the table. The quiet was different here, less hostile, more empty. It gave me room to think. I texted Allison one sentence, "I won't be back for a few days. Please don't contact me." She replied, "Okay. I understand." That was it. The next few days blurred together. I worked from my sister's house, answered emails, avoided questions. I told my boss I needed personal time. He didn't pry. Megan, the lawyer, walked me through the legal logistics, what to expect, what not to expect, how to protect my financial interests. She was sharp, compassionate, and clinical, all the things I needed. On the fourth day, I returned home briefly while Allison was at work. I packed more clothes, some of my books, and took the framed photos off my nightstand. I wasn't angry, I just couldn't bear to look at us smiling on the Amalfi Coast or kissing under Christmas lights in Montreal. Those weren't lies, but they felt like ghosts now. I boxed them up and stored them in the garage. Maybe I'd look at them again one day. Or maybe I'd burn them. I hadn't decided yet. In the hallway, I passed the closet where we kept our coats. I paused, staring at the designer coat she had worn that night to the business dinner. It still hung there like a relic, untouched since. I didn't touch it. The house was quiet. Clean. Sterile. Every room felt staged, like we were actors in a set built for a marriage that no longer existed. Before I left a note on the dining table. "Allison, I've started the process. I'm not doing this to punish you. I'm doing it because I need to breathe again. Kevin." I folded it in half and left it under her coffee mug. I didn't wait for her to find it. It was 2 days after I'd moved out when the alert came through. I was at my sister's dining table, laptop open, headphones in, trying to concentrate on work when my phone buzzed. I glanced down, expecting a calendar reminder or another well-meaning message from a friend. Instead, it was a fraud warning from our bank. Large withdrawal alert. Joint checking, $13,247.89 transferred to MJ Growth Services. My heart kicked into overdrive. I opened the banking app immediately. The transaction was real. It had cleared just that morning. My thumb hovered over the screen as if staring hard enough might reverse it. MJ Growth Services, what the hell was that? Allison and I had agreed not to touch the joint account until we had a plan. Even before the separation became official, that was our unspoken rule. She had her salary deposited into a personal checking account anyway. The joint one was mainly for mortgage, bills, and emergencies. This wasn't an emergency. This was a breach. I opened a browser and typed in the company name. The search results were minimal. Just a simple business registry page, MJ Growth Services, LLC. Based out of Providence, Rhode Island. Consulting and personal development firm. Owner, Milo Jansen. Of course it was. I sat back, staring at the screen, mind unraveling faster than my composure. She hadn't just taken the money, she had funneled it to him. And not to pay him back or settle a private debt. She transferred over 13 grand to his company. Quietly. Deliberately. I closed the laptop, stood up, and walked into the backyard. I needed air, but the air didn't help. The betrayal had shifted. It wasn't just emotional now. It was financial. Tangible. Documented. This wasn't about love or loneliness or feeling seen. This was theft. The worst part? I trusted her not just with my heart but with everything. With our finances. Our plans. Our future. I called the bank. The woman on the phone was polite, professional, clearly trained to sound calm while handling marital implosions. Mr. Reese, was this transaction authorized by you? No, I said. She clicked a few keys. And you're listed as co-owner of the account, correct? Yes. We'll need to start a formal dispute. Unfortunately, because the account is joint and unless we can prove fraud or coercion, it may be difficult to recover the funds without legal intervention. Legal intervention. That phrase hit harder than it should have. I thanked her, ended the call, and immediately reached out to Megan, my lawyer. She didn't waste time. We'll file a formal injunction to freeze the joint assets, she said. From this point on, I want you to treat your finances like you're protecting a vault. Change passwords. Redirect your paycheck. If she's willing to funnel money to a third party, we can use that. It strengthens your case. I followed every instruction to the letter. I opened new accounts, changed PINs, set alerts for every transaction. It felt like war prep. And maybe it was. Not the dramatic kind with yelling and slammed doors, but the cold kind. The kind with signatures, legal notices, and timestamps. Later that night, I opened Allison's laptop again. It was still logged into her browser, careless, or maybe she thought I wasn't coming back. The email was still there, as if untouched since the Salem weekend. A thread caught my attention. The subject line read, New investor contribution. My stomach turned. I clicked it open. It was from Milo. Milo Jansen. Thanks again for your support. I promise this will be the start of something big. I've got 2 more clients lined up next quarter. If this works out, we'll be on a beach in 2 years. I'll make it worth it. You always believed in me when no one else did. Love you for that. M. Below that, Allison had replied. Allison Reeves. I'm doing what I can. It's risky, but I want to help you. Just make sure this isn't for nothing, Milo. I've given you everything I can. I can't keep pulling from the joint without Kevin noticing. Too late. My hands clenched. I closed the laptop softly like I was tucking a child into bed even though every cell in my body wanted to throw it across the room. This wasn't just infidelity. This was betrayal in layers, like peeling back wallpaper only to find mold, rot, and termites underneath. I didn't call her. There was no point. I wasn't going to give her a stage for tears or apologies. The show was over. Instead, I compiled everything, the email screensh*, TS, the bank transfer logs, the registry info linking MJ Growth Services to Milo, and sent them to Megan. She replied within 10 minutes. This changes things. We're going for asset protection, full audit, and a financial misconduct clause in the divorce filing. Let's make sure she doesn't do more damage on her way out. I nodded silently to no one. The next day, I returned home again, alone in daylight. I didn't tell Allison I was coming. She wasn't there. The house was still. Too still. I walked into the bedroom. Her side of the closet was partially empty. Drawers ajar. A few hangers swinging. Her shoes were gone except for one pair of worn flats by the door. It looked rushed. Unplanned. Like she had grabbed everything she could and vanished. The safe in our closet where we kept passports, family jewelry, and a few sentimental keepsakes was open. Not forced. Just open. The key? Gone. I checked the contents. Our wedding photos. Letters we had written during our engagement. A small silver locket that had belonged to my grandmother passed down to me with the quiet expectation that one day I'd give it to my daughter. Gone. She hadn't just stolen money. She had taken fragments of our life and disappeared with them. I stood in that room surrounded by the absence of someone I no longer recognized, and for the first time since this all began, I didn't feel confused or angry. I felt hollow. Like someone had erased me from my own life. The silence was deafening. It had been 3 days since I found the closet half empty and the safety deposit box key missing. No texts. No calls. No email. It was as if Allison had been absorbed into thin air, leaving behind only traces, a forgotten scarf on the banister, an old grocery list tucked into a kitchen drawer, a half-used bottle of shampoo in the shower. Her presence lingered only in fragments. The bank confirmed what I already knew. That morning, Someone matching her description accessed our shared safety deposit box. A forged ID and a duplicate key. The clerk said she was calm, polite, like she was just retrieving something she was entitled to. Inside had been more than just our wedding keepsakes and heirlooms. There were letters, dozens of them, tied with a ribbon, notes we'd exchanged over the years. They were gone. So was the locket. She didn't just leave our marriage. She took its artifacts with her. The investigator Megan recommended found that Milo had cleared out his Providence office the same day. No forwarding address. The LLC website went offline. All signs pointed to a clean exit, an escape route carved long before I found that receipt. They didn't just run. They disappeared. Time, I learned, doesn't heal everything, but it dulls the sharp edges. Months passed. I closed our accounts, sold the house, and moved into a modest apartment on the other side of town. It was smaller, simpler. I painted the walls myself. There was something strangely cathartic about choosing new colors, starting from white. I swam laps at the community pool. Got a dog. An old mutt from the shelter with tired eyes but a loyal heart. I found a rhythm. I slept through the night. I cooked for myself. I learned to like silence again. Then one evening an envelope arrived. No return address. Inside, the missing flash drive with our wedding video and the locket, wrapped in the same cloth it had always been stored in. No letter, no apology, no explanation, just a quiet return. I didn't reach out. I didn't need to. Instead, I drove out to Fall Creek, to the little stone church where we'd taken our engagement photos. I sat on the bench out back, beneath the faded archway, and watched the sun fall behind the trees. It wasn't closure, but it was enough.